Hello there, welcome to another Fort Triumph video with Ungainly Titan, and this time we're showing the campaign mode. The campaign mode is currently available as a special beta branch on Steam. It's not part of the main Steam version of the game, at least not right now. So you have to be given permission as a beta tester, and you have to go to Discord to get the appropriate code to look at this particular version of the game, or to download this version of the game and play through it. There are some bugs in it, which the development team know about. I mean, I've managed to completely crash the game by rescuing heroes from cages. If you go into cages, you better go and take the Bitcoin instead. So it is the story mode, essentially, the plot campaign chapters that this game originally was when I encountered it back in the summer of 2018. So you have your suspicious hooded character goes to the inn and meets Garbark the Terrible, while our heroes have been discussing their fortunes and decided to form an independent hero group to contract out hero work. And now they're looking for some work from the Lady Eveline. Now, I actually think this particular way of introducing it is actually much better than the way it was done before, where it was kind of an in media res introduction. And a reason I think is there's just a little bit extra. I do think that instead of the gradiated colour images behind the dialogue at the start in the inn, they'd have better off actually with a picture of the inn, in my own opinion, but that's just my opinion. You're now on the world map when they're talking to Lady Eveline, and they're getting their next mission from the Lady Eveline. Now, the thing is, the world map, this is the same world map as you have in the skirmish game. So the town in the background is the town that the parties or heroes are based out of, and it's the town that you will control as the player. And you get the same benefits out of the town that you get in the skirmish game. So you can upgrade the town by using Bitcoin and magic, or both, depending on what it is you're buying. So you have the same thing. You can buy buildings like the university, or you can buy human faction orientated buildings like the kindergarten or whatever. You can buy guild upgrades like extra slots, extra party members. You can buy more heroes. You can buy units. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I've covered. So your parties can go and prosecute the story, basically. You can march down to where Gars and Crunchy Bones is hanging out right now and kick off the next element of the story right off the bat. Well, you won't do it right off the bat because the party won't reach right off the bat. Although the second group, the group that starts further out, might. Now, I didn't quite click onto it, but you don't need to bring all 4 heroes to Gars and Crunchy Bones' location to trigger the thing, and to have all 4 heroes present at that plot important fights. So plot important fights, you bring any party with a hero in it to the location, it kicks off the plot important fight, and your heroes will be present. Of course, you don't have to do it straight off the bat. You can actually tour the countryside. You can visit locations that are already defended by neutral garrisons, so you can take over villages or buildings. I'm going to call them villages. I'm not sure what the developers actually refer to them as, but you can take over buildings that will generate units for you. So you have and the type of unit will generally be whatever they're guarded by. So if it's guarded by human peasants, it's probably going to generate a peasant. If it's guarded by brutes, it'll probably generate a brute. If it's guarded by spiders, it'll generate spiders, and maybe not necessarily the spider that's guarding. So human stuff will generate human units. Spiders stuff will generate Forest Utopia. Faction stuff will generate that. Spiders, and so on and so forth. And then you have the beet farms. Beet farms will generate 75 Bitcoin a day, and that'll add to your total Bitcoin production that you get. You get a certain base out of the town, and some areas are magic pools, and obviously the magic is a non-renewable, or at least a not easily renewable resource. There's obviously magic generator, I think, up at the back of the village. But then, like in the skirmish game, that's going to be garrisoned by some really tough units that you're going to have trouble dealing with. Now, does it make a difference if you spend your time building up resources before you go and prosecute the story? Well, it does. At least insofar as I've been able to observe, it makes one obvious difference in that the bad guys will keep spawning parties, and those parties actually will get stronger, unlike the skirmish game where they kind of start out strong and actually they get weaker over time. This case around seems to be a bit different in that I've played through it twice, and if in the first week the parties that are spawned are generally quite weak, they're not trivial. They'll still put up a decent fight. But some of them, for instance, might have only 3 to 4 units in them, and if your savage, say, is high enough level, she might be capable of beating them on her own. That sort of thing. So there is a balance. Now, I have, in both run-throughs that I've done so far, I've actually triggered the encounter with guards and crunchy bones quite early on, or at least as nearly as early as I could manage it. And I've used one party to do that, and I've had the other party go around basically capturing resources. So there I've got 250 Bitcoin from a treasure bag that was lying around. And here we have the town, and I want to send the other party down to Gars and Crunchy Bones, but I want to make it a 3-person party. So I'm going to buy some units as well to defend my town, and I'm going to buy the university upgrade because again, it's it unlocks a lot of other possible upgrades that I would like to have and couldn't have if the university isn't there. Plus, I get the experience boost that the university gives me. So I can't quite make it to Gars and Crunchy Bones in this turn, and I can't quite make it anywhere else either. Now, in the next turn, there's the enemy town already spawning a party. Now, Garzan was just out at the edge of the fog of war, so I've triggered a battle with him straight away. And I'm not going to cover the battle. However, Garzan was also out in the middle of the countryside, and you meet up with Lord Afthas Lion Maid again. But you can see here the battle with Garzan takes place in a human village. So personally, I would rather, just on steady grounds, that I met Garzan at a building, a human building, so that it would kind of match the terrain that I'm fighting with him on. Similarly, when we exit the map here, we mightn't get much of a chance to see it because I think I open up one of the party sheets pretty quickly. But the Goblin Town that you saw earlier on is where Garbark Garbark the Terrible is located, and Lord Afthas's comment here would indicate that he's further in on the same town, and he is in a human town as well, and actually the fight shows him as a human town. However, the iconography on the map shows him in a goblin town. Now, he's a bit further away, and in this particular instance, in this particular playthrough, I can see more or less the direct and shortest route. Sometimes you can see the goblin town without necessarily being sure of what route or what direction is the best one to get to him on. However, and I kind of forgot it at this point in the playthrough, it doesn't matter if the party that arrives at the town where Garbark the Terrible is located is a full party with 4 heroes, or it's just got 1 hero. You'll have 4 heroes in the final battle anyway. What happens if you wait? Well, if you spend too much time working around the map and building up your strength and conquering places, something like this will happen. A party will march out of the enemy town, and it took me a couple of attempts to beat it. It'll be big. This is actually a particularly tough party because not only is it 3 times my number, but it also has a significant amount of quite powerful units. It had particularly Goblin Shaman, and I think it might even have a Goblin Bomber. No, it doesn't have any goblin bombers, thank God. I could have done without encountering a goblin bomber at this point. But the unit is tough enough. There's so many of them, and the goblin shaman in particular are tough enough that I actually finish up losing everybody except Krita in the course of this fight. Now, because I lost everybody except Krita over the course of this fight, I'm just going to skip through to the end of the fight. Because you're familiar with, if you've been watching my videos, you're familiar with how the tactical fighting works. I actually waste a day, I think, faffing around with parties, so that I could arrive at the Goblin Town with a full party of 4 heroes. But there was actually no need for me to do it. And I could trigger the last fight with Garbaric the Terrible, without having to actually do this. So I managed to actually win the fight overall. I'm not going to include either the final fight with Garbaric the Terrible because A, it includes some spoilers and I want to give people the opportunity to actually experience this for themselves. Plus, probably when it's all over, I want to do a proper playthrough of the whole thing again at the very edge, or at the very end. So, what do I think? What do I make of it so far? Well, it's kind of early into the thing, but I do think it is a better presentation of the story, the campaign mode, than previously. I think there's a little bit of extra. There's a little bit of extra information put out there at the start, and it's quite a long dialogue, I think, at the initial stages, but I do think it sets things up quite nicely. There's a nice bit of foreshadowing in it, and developments along sort of add to the uncertainty, shall we say, of what's going on. Makes the story less straightforward, even though essentially it's the same story, but with embellishments that you had at the very beginning. And I think the map is a bit more compact than in the original world map, and the fact that you can see, even from the very beginning, you can see goblin parties being spawned, it puts a greater sense of urgency on getting the mission done, not to spend too much time exploring the world map. And I think overall that kind of adds to the tension of it. And the combats in the town are okay. I mean, I don't think they're particularly challenging. It's possible there might be and I don't know whether they're scaled to the party or whether, shall we say, balancing considerations have been taken into account yet or not. So it's kind of early days to say. I think they're the random encounters in the countryside are tougher than the fights and the progress the story. But in some ways, I think fights that progress the story ought not to be too tough, because you want to progress the story. You don't want to stop people progressing the story element, and there's going to be plenty of really tough fights in the countryside as well. But and I've only played through it twice, so I don't know exactly how whether there's balancing, I said, going on. But that is something that can be tweaked anyway, and so far I think it's very good progress. I really enjoyed the playthrough, bugs and all, and I would probably play through it again quite happily, even as it stands. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting. If you did, please give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment, and if you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel. Bye for now. See you.